That's one of the things that I'm really proud of, actually, that number one, obviously, at the time when we did the first Underworld, it was much more unusual for a female action thing to work and certainly go to a franchise.
Yeah.
And also not just the fact that it's female-led, but also that it's an original idea. I don't think that would happen now. I think we squeaked in the last minute. There's no video game that it's tied to, there's no books, there's no comic book or anything. And I feel like that, I think we're like the only ones, you know? So that those two things feel really cool.
Hey there, boys and girls. Welcome to another episode of Hollow Wiggly. Nick and George here with 31% on How Low Can We Go?
Yeah, we're almost at the 20s.
Almost there at the rip-roaring 20s. But we're not.
No.
We're at 31
Yes.
with...
Underworld.
Or we can say it like the guy who wrote the comics. Underworld.
We can't talk like that. Nobody can talk like that
Underworld.
guy.
I can't.
That guy is amazing.
You told me...
You got to edit in just a little of him
Just
talking.
one line of it.
I feel like the ground trembles when he talks. I feel, right? Like,
It was so, like, bassy and cool.
and it's not an effect. That's his fucking voice.
And that guy... and that was the guy that wrote it, right?
Yes.
He wrote, and then you also told me, like, he did Marvel Zombies? Is that right? Some of the Marvel Zombie stuff?
He did not do... Well, maybe he did. I don't know. But the thing that I found out about him that I thought was super cool is that he's a huge comic book fan and has a personal collection of 10,000 comics, with his specialty being the Marvel Zombie series.
Oh, that's the connection.
Yep.
Okay.
But he's a huge comics fan, and he wrote this, and that... It's one of the things... I mean, this movie came out, 2003? It's been quite a while since I've seen it. So, I've seen all the movies in the franchise, but... I forgot how comic-y the first one was. That the feel and the vibe to it.
Yeah. So, for those who don't know what How Low Can We Go is,
Yes.
How Low Can We Go is where we started Rotten Tomatoes at 59% and work our way down 1 percentage point at a time.
Doing a movie at each percentage point.
That's right.
On the way to zero or insanity.
Or Insanity.
Right.
So, there we go.
Both, it's like a 50 coin toss.
It is a coin toss.
But we have really, really enjoyed the movies that we've picked so far, which we'll talk about a little later in the podcast. But I mean, there were some great movies in this list, and I'm a big Underworld fan, so I'm gonna enjoy this episode. I think if I had to choose a franchise, and you were making me choose between Resident Evil and Underworld, I would pick Underworld. I know, don't get mad at me.
So, Underworld, 31%. Let me jump into this real quick.
Yes.
If you haven't seen Underworld yet, we watched the director's cut, unrated cut.
The 4-hour Lawrence of Arabia version of Underworld.
And
Yes.
mine was actually a little bit longer, so let me explain something to you guys.
Oh.
And I thought this actually made the film, I call this accidental Tarantino,
Okay.
I think.
Oh, I know where you're going with this. Okay.
So I accidentally watched the prologue to Underworld Evolution,
Yes.
where it began, and I actually have notes on that one. Love the simple opening. Armor looks great. The snowy village looks awesome, which we just mentioned in the last episode.
Yes.
Snow makes everything look cool. Transformations look great. Love how powerful the wolves are. CGI is not too bad. Snow battles are always cool. The prologue was awesome. Basically, it shows you everything, like one of the first big encounters.
Yep.
That leads to the whole origin story. And if you watch the prologue of that and then go into the first one, because you know what, it is accidental Tarantino. Because in that prologue, they show clips from the first film of the events that happened.
They do.
So it's almost sort of like you're doing this circle of life bullshit. So my recommendation: watch the prologue to Underworld Evolution.
Okay.
Stop. Cue Underworld 2003.
Yes.
And then keep it going. Because when you get to what's his face's name? Where's his head? Or where's his name?
You have his head?
Well, no, he loses.
This is a
it.
horror podcast.
He loses. he loses his head.
Oh, no.
Why do I have my notes the way I do? Doesn't matter. Anyways, I call it accidental Tarantino because it sort of does the we're showing you something in the past. Here's a little bit of the future. Here's present time.
Totally.
Boom. Suck a dick.
I want you to
Here we go.
trademark that, because that's accidental Tarantino is pretty great.
Yeah, I like that. Okay, so let's jump into the actual actual Underworld.
How did you realize you were watching the wrong movie?
Well, I you were like, hey, I got this on my Amazon, so I was like, okay, I'll load it up.
Yep.
And then I was like, I don't remember this opening at all, but I like it, so I kept watching it. And then I hovered over the screen, and I was like, Underworld Evolution, is that 31%?
Right.
And you're like, no, the original. And I was like, oh shit.
Right.
And then I watched Underworld. And it shows the one guy that Celine resurrects, like the guardian or whatever his name is, and
Victor, right?
Victor.
Yes.
And so when she resurrects Victor, you already know a little bit of his backstory and what he's all about,
right?
Because you watched the Evolution prologue, and I was like, that kind of makes like
that's awesome.
Knowing him kind of cool because he's been laid to rest for however many years.
They should recut this movie, and then
that's what I'm saying.
Give you credit.
That's what I'm saying. So for the company who owns the Underworld franchise, cut that prologue into Underworld. And we will dig it out of the 31%.
I love it. I love it. The mega cut.
I like it. Okay. The Tarantino cut.
Yes.
Even though he has nothing to do
oh, that's fine.
with the film. So let's just start with that super cool noir shot.
Yes.
Of her just leaning over, like Batmaning.
Yeah, totally.
Over the edge of the
It's a
thunderstorms.
great shot. The world has a great look. I know there's a lot of people who attack this movie for A, not being horror, and B, being boring, but I don't agree with those things. It's not the best movie in the world, but just the opening shot, that world, and then one of the things that I really, really like about this is actually my favorite thing about the Underworld franchise is they got some really amazing actors, and these actors are delivering the lines like they're in Shakespeare. They're taking it so seriously that it's funny. Mm-hmm. Because they're saying ridiculous nonsense a lot of the time, but they're saying it like to be or not to be, right?
Yeah.
And they're fully committed to that. And I think that part is just really great because there's a lot of wink, wink, nudge, nudge in franchises where they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. Like, we know this is kind of stupid and we know like whatever, but this movie never shows its hand. If this movie was a poker player, you lose to this movie.
Yes.
Because this movie thinks and acts like it's serious, even though ludicrous shit is happening, right? And this cast, so Bill Nighy, amazing. I'm probably not saying his name right, but this dude's an amazing actor. He's fucking Davy Jones. He's incredible.
Yeah.
So this guy's great. Michael Sheen, are you kidding me?
He's my favorite part of the movie.
Right? And then Kate Beckinsale, who literally does Jane Austen and Shakespeare movies, has like a mega IQ of 200 or something ridiculous.
She was kind of doing laps around some of the other actors.
Yeah.
Like the main vampire guy who was like kind of cheese dicking her the whole film.
That guy was so stupid.
I didn't like him. And,
I hate that guy. But he was so aggravating, it was almost fun. But yeah.
Yeah. He kind of annoyed me in the beginning, and I was like, man, Kate Beckinsale just like bitch slapping him in terms of just like bringing it.
But the reason I bring all of this big digression up, is because there's a moment when she jumps off that Gothic building, when she lands, and her body language when she lands and just starts walking, sold me at the first minute that this is a badass.
Yeah.
Who there's something about them.
And they're called death dealers.
Yeah, which is cool.
How sweet is
that? But there's something about the body language that just makes her totally convincing as someone who is singularly focused on her mission. Mm-hmm. And that's the key, is even though the plot is kind of stupid, the fact that you're following a character who is she's as obsessed with killing werewolves as she's as obsessive about her job as I think like Mark Zuckerberg is. She's the Zuckerberg of
I could see that.
Werewolf killers.
That makes sense. Wow, we're coming with a accidental Tarantino. The Zuckerberg of werewolf killers. Exactly. I like that. No, that was some of my first notes. Was cool opening shot, and I like how this film. I can see how people probably didn't like it when it came out, few years after like Matrix.
Sure.
Where everyone's wearing leather.
Yep.
And Matrix is like very green. This film is very blue.
Yep.
But looking at it now, I really like the fact that it stuck to its guns.
Literally, because that's one of the things that bother me about this movie is all the fucking guns, which is the same thing that bothers me with the Matrix.
I have a few notes about the
although
action.
The bullets with the ultraviolet light
that was fucking cool.
Was great.
I like that. No, but I like the visual style of it. I can see why people at the time probably didn't like it. But nowadays it always looks good. The first thing that bugged me is they're tracking down some of the like last werewolves who they think are the last werewolves.
Yes.
And who the werewolves are now tracking some other guy. And they have that subway shootout.
Yep.
here's the thing: they're like experienced killers and shit, but like, and they're like 15 feet away from each other, but everyone's like missing like thousands of bullets.
I mean, yeah.
That kind of, I was like, why is? Because later on in the film, she hears people on the other side of a door and just opens fire and like nails like 10 dudes. And I'm like, so you can hit people on the other side of a closed door, but you can't hit people 15 feet.
Yeah,
in
and she
front
couldn't
of you.
hit the biggest werewolf known to man.
Yeah, that guy's fucking huge.
Right. Yeah, that was a little derivative. Although I got to admit that the shots themselves, when they were missing, it was really convincing. Like the ones that were going off the walls and going through the windows, whatever. It was competently filmed. It was just staged in a way where they're just all bad and then all good and then all bad and all good with their aim, and that was dumb.
It was all over the place.
Yes.
So that kind of bugged me. But not too far into the film, we see like the first werewolf transformation.
Yes.
And the werewolf transformations of this are very quick.
Yes.
And they look great too.
Yes, they do.
Like there's a good mix of like practical, and it looked like some.
We also saw a vampire transformation, which was lame.
Well,
because they just grow teeth.
yeah, that's just it's like, and like that's it, like ta-da.
Right, exactly.
But it was kind of cool the way it was shot. It was just like a few frames here, flash, few frames, flash, few frames,
Yep.
and in each of those little frames you saw a little bit of a transformation, and I thought that was actually smart.
Totally.
It was done. It was to the point, real quick, and it looked great.
Totally. I just want to mention real quick. I think one of the cool moments in these opening scenes is the vampire that Kate Beckinsale brought with her into the gunfight. He gets shot with those ultraviolet things, and his end is horrible.
Oh yeah, he like disintegrates.
dissolves.
Kind of Blade like when Blade would kill people.
Very similar. And if you watch it, what happens is she looks down and she sees him dissolve, and she has a look on her face of like almost horror, like I'm watching my friend melt away. And the next thing she does is pull out two guns and just charge straight at the person who shot those bullets. And there's no hesitation. And that's one of the things I really like about this character is the way they sketched it was she has an emotion and then she shuts it down and just goes back to killing.
Yeah.
And then she has an emotion and then shuts it down again and goes back to killing. And that dichotomy of her registering what's happening around her and then getting ruthless again is one of the things that made Celine one of the best horror characters from the early 2000s, as an invention.
Which is funny. You talk about how she goes to ruthless immediately and goes back to fighting. After that werewolf transformation, which is cool, the vampire does his like little fang thing or whatever it is, and he acts real tough, and the werewolf just destroys the fuck out of him.
Because he's 4 times his size.
I love that. He acted like tough and did like growl at him, and all the werewolf was like, "Fuck, dude! Like, no, you don't get to do that. I'm a fucking werewolf." Yeah, there were some weird things like and I don't know if it was because the headphones I was using, like, because I was using pretty good headphones to listen to the film. There was some weird things about it, like sound design wise, that I thought were kind of weak sauce.
I can see that.
So like they were in a tunnel and everything was echoey, but then she shot a gun and like there was like no echo. This is super nitpicky,
No.
and I'm not normally nitpicky, but it was just something I noticed.
Sure.
But like everything in the tunnel was echoing, but then she shoots these guns and like there was no echo to it,
Right.
but it looked weird. Did you notice some of that with like the gun stuff?
I did not, but that's the thing is I was tuning out the gunfights as soon as they started because I just felt like they were going to be really dumb.
Yeah, I just thought some of the sound design shit was like a little weak sauce, like, but it wasn't enough
if
to
this was
ruin.
Len Wiseman's first movie. It's possible.
That I don't know, but and that's like super nitpicky, but like I don't think it took me completely out of the movie because it's a fucking gun sound effect. So,
right.
But then my next note was the bullets. We got to look at those bullets. Those are cool. And then where the fuck those ninja stars were that she threw?
Those are great.
How you never saw those again? Those like
Yeah, you only saw when he was pulling them out of himself, which was also great.
That was a great scene.
That was awesome.
Wait, what was the next note? Oh, and then after that we go straight to the Michael. I said Michael Sheen got it right. Oh, this is the part that pissed me off the most. Okay, this is my biggest gripe with the film, I think. So, well, according to the vampires, there's not a lot of werewolves left, which is true. I mean, there's more than what they thought.
Sure.
But
they've been killing him for his centuries.
Yeah, but so there's like hundreds of werewolves, and not to what they used to be. And this is my first note. Michael Sheen got it right. And this part of me thought, you know what? Maybe the werewolves deserve to all die because there's not a lot of them left. And what the fuck did they decide to do? Fight each other for entertainment.
Fight each other, yeah.
That's what you're gonna do. You're not gonna strategize and plan out how you're gonna.
Only Michael Sheen is strategizing.
Yeah, and then
maybe his friend, the big guy.
Yeah, and so that's why I love Michael Sheen's character. He walked in, he was like, I think his line was like, "What a bunch of animals." He's like, "What the fuck is wrrong with you?"
Yeah,
I loved his character,
and he had to maintain discipline. He's alpha. That's how that works in a pack.
Didn't they discover that's not true?
The
Whole alpha
true in this movie.
Yeah, well, it's true, and that's all that. And that's all that matters.
Right.
But Michael Sheen, I said, then getting shit on by the vampires. We should fight each other for entertainment, and then sniff each other's assholes. That'd be great. That'd be more productive.
Yeah, but I mean, so all of this is you can't. Once you start looking for plot holes in movies like this or Resident Evil, whatever, you're doomed because, I mean, werewolves spread by biting. The fact that their population is down to not many werewolves is absolutely ridiculous.
Well, I'm not looking for plot holes. I was just more upset because, like, in reality, if someone was like, Nick, werewolves, vampires, I go, are we werewolves?
Yes.
And I'm like, you stupid motherfuckers, you're going to lose this because you want to fight idiots.
Well, at least they got one smart one.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Martin Sheen's introduction is fucking cool. And I love that guy.
Yes.
He could put it. You know what's funny, though? He was in the Twilight films as a vampire, so he was...
Well,
he got a little bit of both. How about them apples?
Yes, you do. He's actually a great actor. He's really, really.
I dig the.
He's really. I loved him in Frost Nixon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So all right. So then we go to meet one of the weakest points in the movie, which is the Craven guy, the guy that you hate. And so here's the thing though, he represents the Eurotrash vampires. And it's funny that you're aggravated by the werewolves fighting each other, because I was more aggravated by the vampires in the mansion than I was by the werewolves, because they just lounge around and pose for GQ covers. That's their whole,
it's true.
Their whole fucking
They're just
existence.
like smoking cigarettes and shit. Like, and it's great.
It's ridiculous. And poor Kate Beckinsale, she's the only one doing any real work, right? And Craven's just hanging out, barking orders, but not doing shit, right?
Yeah.
And part of that's because he has the secret plot that he's working, right? Exactly. But part of it is that they're just all douchebags. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
was why on that train scene I was like, you could spare a few.
Sure. Yeah. Absolutely.
You don't need them there.
But I liked that they were aggravating. I think that was their job. I mean, his name is Craven, for God's sake. When your name means coward, you're not meant to be like a role model. Right.
Yeah, and honestly, there was some dialogue that he gave off that sounded really bad. Like the way he gave off some dialogue it just felt weird compared to Kate Beckinsale, who's like fucking gnarly.
Yeah.
Like compared to her, I was like, ugh.
I mean, I didn't hear most of what he was saying because it freaks me out. When people who have square heads talk, it freaks me out. I get taken out of it. His head is actually a box, so I missed a lot of what he said.
Oh, that was the scene where I was like, "Oh shit!" I think Kate Beckinsale's like running laps around this dude right now. Yes. But then after that scene, that takes us to who I think might be my favorite character in the film, the fucking doctor.
No, he's great.
Isn't he great?
The mad scientist.
The mad scientist guy, but he has like the round, like the circle glasses.
That plot line, the whole side plot is so insane.
That's my favorite part of the whole fucking movie.
And he is totally great. And there's this moment where Craven turns. It's later in the movie, but there's a moment where Craven turns to Kate Beckinsale, and she tells him, "I think they were following that human." Mm-hmm. And Craven goes, "Except for food, why would werewolves even be tracking a human?" Right? And then as soon as he says that, it cuts to the mad scientist, and they're showing you why they're tracking humans. But he's got like a guy chained up in his lab, and he's doing like the craziest shit to him. And it's so fun. That whole.
I wish there was more of him.
Yeah.
In the film. Oh yeah, and then that was when I think you first get a. I'm gonna botch his last name. The creator's name, Ken Grievous.
Yeah, I can't say his name either.
I have my note. Holy shit, that voice.
Yeah, right.
I was like, is that? That's what I'm hearing.
But you know what's funny is that I remember that there were a couple moments in this movie. So this movie's it's action horror, so it's clearly not designed as scary horror.
Yeah.
But there were a couple moments in this movie, particularly towards the end, where werewolves were lurking in like the dark shadows, where I was apprehensive about when they were going to spring out. Like this movie actually had a couple scare moments, and it's because they made the werewolves so convincingly just powerful.
I love that. Some of the werewolves though didn't, and this was one of the other things I didn't really like about the film was like I'm gonna like refer to like video game stuff like not everything was balanced.
Yes.
So like, not that it should be, not that maybe it should. I don't know. It felt weird to me that like some vampires were like super fucking weak, and some werewolves like one bullet they're dead, and others could take like a shit ton of damage and survive.
Yeah.
That was a little weird.
That's true, but then again, like I think about it almost like in terms of a football team, right? Like
True.
Tom Brady can take one hit and then he's out of the
That's
game.
fair.
But
And that's why that's why like it's not a big thing for me. I was like, it worked.
Yep.
But yeah, I loved how powerful those werewolves are. Like when they would just toss those fucking vampires around and shit.
Yep.
I always thought and I like how the vampires had to use guns because I always imagined them as like, lurking in the shadow, like, dissolving into like the fog and appearing behind someone else. But it was like,
But see, that's the thing. The movie, because it matrixed it up, that's where it missed its chance to be like 30 Days of Night good.
yes, if the vampires had fought like that,
Exactly.
that would have been fucking dope.
Right.
And that's the thing is like you either with the guns shit, you either have to go like full Matrix or what was the Christian Bale one? Equilibrium.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Is that it's like the gun fu style thing, type stuff,
Yeah.
or not at all because you
Right.
can't halfway do it, which they sort of did in some scenes, and it didn't. It felt a little weird. That's probably That's probably my biggest, like just to get out. That's probably my biggest gripe is some of the battles felt a little weird.
Yes.
But I loved a lot more than what I didn't like.
Well, but it led to, so you coined a phrase earlier, accidental Tarantino, which I like. I'm going to coin a phrase where this movie invented the genre of reloading porn. So Kate Beckinsale reloading guns is the best part of gun battles. Right?
Yes.
Because she does it like a ninja, and it's just amazing. I was like, just for that alone was you train someone to reload a gun by clicking the guns together, or like getting the magazines, the cartridge. I mean, that was absolutely
That was cool.
Incredible.
My next, I'm trying to go in sequential order, but I don't know if my notes ended up that way.
Okay.
So we at some point in time between all that madness, we meet the human,
Yes.
who had some sort of blood ties to the elder people. I'm trying. I can't remember, to be fucking honest. I just watched it again.
Yeah, I know. He's like got elder strain blood.
I like the actor though. He was good.
Yeah, he was better than his square head would have suggested.
Yes.
Because he reminded me of Craven, but
I liked him more than
very
Craven.
sincere.
I liked him more. But I love the blonde vampire woman's reaction when she sees the bite mark. She's like a fucking cat. She like jumps onto the roof and like hisses.
Yeah, that was.
I really like that. And he's just like, I'm gonna jump out the window now. Okay, bye.
That was a great scene.
Oh, and then we meet. God, what's his name again?
Bill Nye.
Yes, we meet Bill Nye. Victor.
Yes.
What's the actor's name? I wrote his note. It's not Bill Nye. Yeah. Oh my God, it is. It is.
Yes, it is.
And my autocorrect, because I couldn't find it, is my autocorrect put Bill Knight. Okay, so,
Bill Nye the Vampire Guy was.
Bill Nye
is
great.
He is great.
The makeup for him was really well done.
So anyone, I mean, I think almost everyone has seen this movie, but they resurrect Victor. So there's elder vampires, and they take turns running the vampire cavern or whatever.
Yeah.
And they return in increments, like hundreds of years or whatever.
Yeah.
And Kate Beckinsale wakes him up early. Mm-hmm. And you wake him up by feeding him a little bit of blood. And then apparently you got to like lab experiment them and like give them IVs of blood.
Yeah, that was...
But his transformation from like really frail and desiccated and dehydrated to full-on powerful Lord Vampire. I thought that whole transition was really cool.
Yeah, and I like
because every time he ran into him, he looked a little younger, a little stronger.
And even the shots that like went inside his body, it looked like there was cobwebs in his
that
organs
was great.
and shit.
That was absolutely great.
I really
and that's one of the things is I love that gothic feel of where they kept them, where they lived.
That was cool.
Like courtroom, whatever.
No, it felt like a government,
room.
like a vampire government establishment.
Well, it's his throne room or whatever it is. But all of that, the designs were cool. Even the way they worked, like when you clicked them and spun them. I thought all that stuff had that Lament configuration, Hellraiser-ish, feel, which was really cool.
I didn't like, and this is the part I remember watching it, like in middle school with my friends, was like when he scoffs at Celine out of nowhere.
Yes.
He just makes that really weird noise. I remember us like laughing our asses off.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
It was so weird. He does it twice, and we're like, that was a weird cutaway. Like they probably just could have.
His throat's dry. He's been buried for.
Yeah, like I get that, but like but
it is weird.
But no.
But no.
I'll take that as a no.
Yes.
So then that takes us to I just wrote down the this is when Craven says the human / lichen hybrid at the time it escapes, and then Craven says, I want that lichen's head on a plate. And I remember thinking, like, I wonder if, like, this is where I get this is what I think about. I wonder if he's going to be picky about the type of plate it's presented on.
Because that's a literal command. That's
a literal command. So if they bring it back on like a Dixie paper plate, is he going to be upset?
Well, it's going to soak through. You're going to drop blood.
It has nothing to do with the movie or how low could we go. But I just thought about it because Alex just bought new plates, and I was like, well, those are pretty plates. Like, so it has nothing to do with the story.
Don't blood those.
I think I just didn't like the Craven guy, so I'd rather have my mind trail off in that direction.
That totally makes sense.
Than whatever the fuck he is concerned in.
There is a pretty cool gun werewolf vampire battle that probably is around this point in the movie where Michael Sheen bites.
Yes,
Scott
this is the hallway.
Speedman. Yep,
the hallway stuff.
Where she shoots the floor off from under.
Did you see?
Which was ridiculous but cool looking.
If I remember correctly, so it was either MythBusters or someone on YouTube tried to do what she did, and like
it's not gonna work.
No, it wasn't.
No,
clearly, it wasn't gonna happen.
No, that's clearly not gonna
work.
But
it's still like that was.
Kate Beckinsale can do it.
I think that was the shot in the trailers though. They kept doing. They're like, watch her shoot a hole in the floor.
Well, it's the way it was filmed was cool. That's the thing. I mean, the concept, it was ridiculous, but the way it was filmed was badass because it started slow and then they sped her up and the camera revolved around her, and it was
still a super cool shot.
It was just a really cool shot. But I actually like Michael Sheen in this whole sequence.
Yes,
because he was really badass. His eyes got all weird, and then he bit Scott Seaman. Then he collected the blood.
That part I liked.
And then he went after the car. And he's running like 80 miles per hour.
Well, first you think he's a goner because they shoot him with
the silver bullets.
The silver bullets,
yes.
And then he drinks something, right?
He just turns into something. Like the bullets fall out of him, which was cool.
That shot was dope.
That was great.
I really liked that, and I liked that scene where he chased after the car and started stabbing through.
Yep.
The
I mean, he does like a really Matrixy flip over the car, which was dumb.
There's a lot of flips.
There was a lot of flips, but the way he went after them was almost Joker-esque, and that blade he has in his sleeve is pretty badass. And then
that was cool.
He was like Terminatoring them through the roof, and that whole sequence was kind of cool.
Yeah, I liked the I like how the guy, after all this shit, still couldn't figure out what was going on, and he sees Kate Beckinsale bleeding. He's like, I work at a hospital. Let me pull you over. She's like, shut the fuck up, dude. Like, I'll be fine.
But she wasn't. Then she crashes the car.
Yeah, well, maybe she should have listened to him. And then, you know what? They didn't, even in the extended cut that we watched, I wish we would have gotten more. Here's what I would want. If I could go back in time and make a sequel to Underworld, I would have the sequel be from the POV of the two cops looking for the guy. Because they were like... They were fucking great. Like,
they were hilarious.
Like, they somewhat didn't care for the task at hand.
Yes.
But they were trying to do a good job.
Yeah, they were pretty great.
And I like them. And I was just like, when they get a hold of the vampire guy... Oh, the music in the film, that dated it kind of hard. Like,
totally.
Like, as soon as he started transforming into a werewolf to hard rock, I was like, hey! To like mall rock, as Alex Taylor would call it.
Yep.
I was like, that's not really my thing.
No, that was rough.
I think I'd be okay with that. But the inside shot. Oh no, it was the inside shot. They did that for two things, I think. of people transforming inside when they gave the blood to what's his face, but then they also did it when he was transforming into a werewolf, and you just saw like what the organs were doing. I liked that a lot, and and honestly, like
it didn't date either. It still looks pretty good.
Yeah, that still looked really good. I enjoyed that a lot, and then I had my note about I'd love to see an Underworld film from just someone who's not a vampire or werewolf, just to see like what like a storyline where all that shit's going on would be kind of fucking dope.
Yep.
I would like to see that. Evolution. Let's see what's my next notes here. The evolution. Oh yeah, that's what it hit me when I was like, oh shit. Everyone should watch the Evolution prologue before they see this film. Showing Victor before. It is kind of awesome. So there I am. I'm going to reinforce that. Watch that prologue first. Then dive into.
Yes.
Then dive into.
So then Scott Speedman turns into a hybrid werewolf vampire. And to me, that's the biggest disappointment of the movie. That was really dumb. Like, what he changed into... He just changed into himself with a shorter nose and darker skin. I don't know. Like, it was just weird. That whole his change to me, that hybrid thing didn't make a whole lot of sense. Because the vampires aren't black. I don't get why he turned black.
Well, the werewolves. Like it was like the color of like I could see I actually liked the design of it.
Okay.
I'm gonna split the hairs and say I like the I actually liked the way he looked. It was kind of cool. It kind of looked like Wolfman, Benicio del Toro's Wolfman a little bit.
I can see that.
But I got confused during the transformation because it showed him like almost morphing into like the big werewolf. But then he was kind of like that little like shrimp dick looking kind of guy.
It was weird.
That confused me a little bit.
It was weird. And, to be honest with you, this is skipping ahead, but he pretty much gets his ass kicked by Victor. So he's supposed to be more powerful.
Yeah,
but he gets trashed. Kate Beckinsale has
but
to
not
save
at first
him.
though. He's like fucking with Victor. He's like teleporting.
He was moving faster and was holding his own. But Victor was totally about to kill him. Now, granted, he did get shot by a bunch of Victor's henchmen, so maybe that weakened him. I don't know, but I don't know. I expected a little more from a vampire werewolf hybrid, but that's fine because one of my favorite things in the movie is actually Victor. Like he at the end, I don't know if you noticed, like, I think he kills Kevin's character, the werewolf from the beginning, the subway scene. Because when he's stalking in towards the end of the movie, and I think that's Kevin who bursts through the wall and is like huge, fucking huge, right? And Victor just looks at him like nothing. Like he could care less that this werewolf just busted through the wall. He just did the Kool-Aid Man move, and Victor is not impressed. And that werewolf charges him, and I actually like the way they filmed it. All his henchmen have guns, but they're not doing anything to protect Victor because they know it's Victor. Right? He's just going to take care of business, and he just reaches out.
That was good.
And grabs the werewolf by the neck, and he tilts his head to look at him, like study him, like.
What you guys been up to?
It's just contempt, just like sheer contempt, right? And the movie did such a good job of selling me that he was that powerful.
That was the moment when I bought it too.
Yep.
And I was like, fuck.
And he kills him without the sword. He breaks his arm.
That I like.
Then he breaks his neck. Then he stabs him with the sword. And look on his face when he does it is just so, he looks so satisfied. And the funny thing is, that this movie, one of the sneaky things it did, because this movie was pitched as Romeo and Juliet with vampires and werewolves. The plot is, Kate Beckinsale fell in love with a werewolf. She's a vampire. These two families shouldn't get together, right? And it's really interesting, actually, that they become more powerful the more they cooperate. But the forces are trying to keep the two races apart, which I feel like is a metaphor for some shit, right? But... what I thought was really cool was there was this everyone else was, so Michael Sheen's character was plotting to bring about like the resurrection of the werewolves, but he wasn't running around killing people. He was basically spending his time chess maneuvering the thing. And we all know that the GQ Vampire Mansion set, they weren't doing anything.
They were just having
The
a good
other
time.
werewolves were just fighting each other like MMA style, so they weren't doing anything. So Celine's really the only one in the movie doing anything until Victor wakes up. And you see with how satisfied he looks at killing that werewolf that him and Celine are the same.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, he made her.
Yes.
So that makes
Totally.
sense.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
they had the connection.
But I like that they brought in another character who just, is a death dealer in the way that she is, because it would have been sort of strangely weak to have a movie where everyone was ineffective except for Celine.
Yes, I agree. We need if there was anyone to have an intervention with, it would be whoever the fuck told Homeboy that 2 whips will take on those powerful fucking werewolves. I thought that was the dumbest shit. He was just like cracking them bullwhips, and the werewolf was like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" I hated that part.
Well, I actually sort of liked it, and I'll tell you why. I think the fact that the werewolves, and you'll see in further movies in the franchise that the werewolves they're the oppressors, right? They're the ones who keep the werewolf slaves down, for lack of a better
I got a little bit of that.
Yeah, exactly. And that, I think that's the thing, is that contempt. They're used to being able to keep the werewolves in line. And it's the fact that Michael Sheen has figured out a way to keep them trained and make them more powerful than the vampires remembered that kind of catches the vampires off guard. And I sort of like that they worked that in there. That it was they're not prepared for these. They're not prepared for werewolves to come up with fucking light bullets either.
That is true.
Right? So,
Yeah.
they're the werewolves are up in their game, and the vampires still have whips.
that is true. I actually wrote down one of my notes. The werepire was pretty sweet. I liked him. I could see the problem that you had with it, because I did think about that too.
Well, I don't want to go on and on, but I just think so. Basically, like Celine, the design of her character is really, really cool, right? They have her very minimalist, and everyone else is wearing fancy embroidered shit and whatever. It tells you what she stands for, right? And Victor's design was really cool. He was wearing some badass clothes.
He looked sweet.
Right?
He looked good.
And then Scott Speedman's design was Scott Speedman shirtless, rolling around in charcoal. And I just feel like compared to the other designs in the movie, his design was,
Could have looked a little better.
Oh.
I liked it, but it wasn't that great. So then it gets to the part that I always have what's funny? The only film I could compare this to, which you just mentioned to, would be Resident Evil.
Okay.
Is when Bill Nye, the non-science guy, loses his head.
Yeah.
There's something about that scene that bugged me, because it was.
I hate that.
Yeah, I don't like that.
I hate that effect. I mean, the grid in Resident Evil is iconic. Right?
Yes.
Like I still don't like that effect, that look. But I gotta say that I did like how they did everything except for that look. That kind of grosses me out. So that's the thing. I mean, it a little bothers me a little bit. But think about the way they executed, because the way they executed was super cool. So the running jump she took to slice him with the sword, it looked almost religious. She looked like she was in a mural. It was like a beautiful shot as she arced across the room.
slow-mo.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. And then when she lands with the same badass way she landed from the beginning, call back to jumping off the building, right? And then she turns around, and Victor's move is to do like the 2 sword move with his arms. And he's like, because he likes to kill people without swords, but now he's pissed. So he's going to go full blade on her, and she's gonna die. He doesn't know that he's already lost his head, which is hilarious. But so he does the sword move, right? And she lifts her sword up and just shows him the blood on it. And that shot was so cool, because it was like her saying, he's like, I'm really gonna kill you now, and she's like, no, you're not. Because look what I've already done.
Kid.
Look what I've already done, right? And just that show is I think her most badass thing in the whole movie. So I liked all of the around that. I just don't. You're right. I don't.
The actual thing.
The actual effect is.
I still think when it comes to people's faces and heads sliding off, Resident Evil
Yes. But I gotta be honest with you. I would give anything to be in the room and ask Bill Nye, the non-science guy, what
Can that be his official?
Yeah, exactly. What his how do you act that? Because you had to go through that with the director. The director would be like, all right, so here's what we're gonna do. I don't know what facial expressions you want to use, but your head has been cut in half. You just don't know it yet. Because I wish this was a video, not audio, but the look on his face that he went with was, hey, what's something wrong? What's that? And it's like it's the look that I get on my face when like I've misplaced my keys or something. Like, hey, wait, I thought they were over
Did
there.
I leave a hot pocket in the microwave?
Exactly. And I mean, he went with almost the most comical, and I can't even imagine the acting challenge of, okay, now you realize that your head's been cut in half. What facial expression do you go with?
And action.
And action. So just the fact that there was a process to that he had to like pick a facial expression for that moment makes the whole thing worth it to me.
I'm almost wondering if the one guy from Resident Evil, I almost want to compare those two faces just to like,
yeah, oh, that's
to know, like when you get your head chopped off before like you know it, is the look where did I place my keys?
Yes. Well, see, here's the thing though. The thing is, they were getting tortured for like a full 5 minutes in the grid scene.
Yes.
And they knew what was coming when the grid hit, right? So Bill Nye did no idea that he even got chopped, right? Like he was ready to go full on battle mode. So I think he went with more of a surprised look, but
yeah.
I do want to compare him because
just for science, because we are talking about Bill Nye, the non-science guy.
Yes, for sure.
The ending. What'd you think?
I don't remember the ending, and I've seen this like 4 times.
They basically.
I literally don't.
So the way it ends is Selena goes, "We're gonna make 6 more of these. Play some heavy metal," and then credits roll, and then it goes written by Danny McBride, not the Danny McBride that I thought I know.
Yeah, no.
I was like, oh shit, Danny McBride wrote this. That's fucking cool. And then I looked it up, and I was like. That doesn't look like Danny McBride. That looks like some other guy.
That's another guy who only ever did this and nothing else.
Yeah.
I don't remember the ending. To me, the ending is her killing Victor, and then they're hanging out together and doing whatever. I don't know it. The whole subplot of the machinations with Craven and even like the blonde girl who jumped on the roof that you like.
I did like her in the film though.
Yeah, she was great. She was a great character, but the whole subplot was so boring that I couldn't follow any of that stuff. And I think where they took some of the sequels, I'm glad they didn't. From the ending of this, I would have thought the sequels would get even more, plot, whatever, and boring. But
yeah,
they avoided that trap. Except for the ending of this one, where they did not avoid that trap.
Yeah. So, scores.
Yeah, let's rate it.
Oh, well, first off, I actually took some screenshots because I liked what we did the one episode where we told everyone what this film was in the same ballpark as.
Okay.
So this film, 31%.
Oh, yeah, good.
Is 31%. And another film, which title I love, with Johnny Depp, Nick of Time. It's in that same category. Nick of Time with Johnny Depp. I'm gonna have to do a Nick marathon. Saint Nick.
Totally.
Nick of Time. Is there any other Nick films? Nickelodeon. I always watch Nickelodeon
Just watch the
all the time. It's also in the same category as Halloween 2.
Okay.
Criminal.
Yes.
Also in the same ballpark as 102 Dalmatians, the live-action film.
102.
And the last one, which this film got completely shit on, was Monster Trucks.
Oh, yeah.
The one where the monster powers a truck, so it's a monster truck. And that film got critically panned, and this film is in...
So this film is better than 3 of the 4 movies you just named, so that's...
Are you saying it's not as good as 102 Dalmatians?
That's a good sign.
I certainly don't think this film belongs in that.
Well, let's get off before we give the rating though. Let's points for starting a franchise,
Yes.
right? Like a fucking franchise with
Because there's not 103 Dalmatians.
no, there's totally not. Good on you. You started a horror franchise, and they stayed true to the spirit of the franchise pretty much up through the last one, which was pretty hot garbage.
That was this year, right?
Yes. So yeah, I know, right?
It came and went.
But this has been going for what, 13, 14 years. So
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna give points for that.
2003.
But I'm gonna. All right, what's your rating before?
So, it's not a perfect film by any stretch of the imagination.
No.
It's not my favorite film that we've done in How Low Can We Go.
No, not even close.
Oh, I honestly, I like Sheen. I like Nye, the non-science guy. Kate Beckinsale's always great. My gut, honestly, for this one, I don't want to give it a fresh just to be fresh.
Okay.
I'd say 55, 60, 55, 58%.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
That
I don't
makes-
think it should be in the 30s. But I don't.
No, absolutely not.
But I also don't think that it's fresh.
Okay, I am gonna say that I would put it at 62. I would make it.
So you're just going just above the.
I would make it.
Why
a
62?
fresh
Why?
movie.
What makes it? What?
Because I don't think that it's. I think that it's well made enough, and like we've talked about so many times before with the memory test, except for the ending, there's so many scenes and moments and things from the movie that I remember, and that I think, I could turn on an Underworld movie, not know that I'm turning on an Underworld movie, and know that I'm watching an Underworld movie within 10 seconds. Right?
Okay,
so
it has like a
It's got a
recognizable
look. It's got
yeah.
a world. It's got some interesting
Yeah, that's
characters. I think those parts are. But here, let me make the argument for you because this is. So I'm.
Convince me.
Let me
give
let
it the
me
extra
tell you-
5%.
Let me tell you the neighborhood it's in now at 62%.
Oh, that's a good.
You ready?
Okay, that's fair. Let me see
So
that.
here's the neighborhood it just moved into. Okay, it's tied at 62% with Maps to the Stars,
I don't know what the fuck that is.
Sharknado 2.
No.
Sharknado 2 is 62% on Rotten Tomatoes. Okay. Snowden, Neighbors 2, Sorority Rising. Right. And Legend, which I actually really liked with Tom Hardy playing those two characters. So, I mean, I feel like
Okay, do me a
I
favor.
feel
Let
like
me
it's
see.
not going to get removed from this neighborhood. Like if Sharknado 2 is in your neighborhood,
That's fair. Okay, what is 55%? Let me know. Let me know what 55% is, and then this will determine whether or not I think. Because at that point I don't know what percentage I'd give it. I would just know if it's fresh or not.
right, exactly.
So depending
right.
on what's at 55, because right now I think you have a very convincing argument.
All right, 55%. You
Okay,
ready?
here we go.
You put it in the neighborhood with Man of Steel.
Oh,
It's also just moved in next door with Hotel Transylvania 2.
oh, not even the first one.
I know you're excited for the first one to show up in this, but it didn't.
I do like the first one.
It's also, wow, there's a lot of fucking movies I've never heard of in this category. It's in a weird neighborhood, man. It's got a whole bunch of people around it that it doesn't recognize because I've never heard of
It just
any of
moved it. It's a new
this.
suburb.
The Descent 2. Wall Street Money Never Sleeps.
Okay, so the film's fresh. I don't know what percentage I'd give it, but it certainly doesn't belong. I can't put a film that gave the world, Kate Beckinsale's character. I can't. I can't
move it in.
I can't do it to that.
next to Man of
So
Steel.
I don't know what percentage I'd give it. I just know it doesn't belong with those.
Okay, all right. fair
So
enough.
you know what? Because that's the thing is I don't want to get to like 0 and just give everything a fresh rating just because of the series we're doing.
Right.
But I would just say that the film is fresh enough to not
Fresh
it's
enough.
fresh enough.
I can see that on the poster.
It's like
Underworld.
It's
fresh
like
enough.
it's like you bought the manager's special tomatoes at the grocery store. You know you got a few days left to use them, That to me is Underworld. You grab it, you're not mad at it, and it's just good enough.
See, now I think that it doesn't belong at 65%. You asked me why 62%. Watch this. Watch why.
Okay.
It doesn't belong in the 65% neighborhood, because then it would be next door to Krampus and The Visit.
Those two films were really fucking solid.
Right. So it doesn't belong there. That's why I put a 62. It's, down the street.
Yeah.
Which is totally fine.
Few houses down.
I think we did this right.
Yeah, I think that's a good placement. So yours is 62, mine is just fresh
Yours
enough.
For just 60.5.
Yeah, 60.2. Let's and I'll make the argument for that some other time.
Okay.
Okay, so that is our how low can we go for Underworld? 31%.
Yes.
We're gonna hit 30 next time.
Yep.
If you love horror and you love the horror community, consider heading over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/HollowWeekly, where we have the best interactive game that you will find on Slack. We call it Last Fan Standing, and every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we come out with a new story where it's sort of a choose your own / roll your own adventure. You get a great little story, and you get to see if you get to be a part of it by rolling your fate. So head on over to patreon.com/HollowWeekly. So, being that this will be the last,
We're going to be watching some truly bad movies that we can't avoid.
It's gonna start getting. This is like I think this we've said this every episode though. Like we feel like this is gonna be the tipping point of like now we're entering the shit fest. But we've always found like a gem. So I feel like we might be okay.
I think that ahead on our list, we're still looking at P2,
Event
Horizon, and The Unborn, which I think is single digits, and I have a soft spot in my heart for that.
There was
movie,
a 13% film or a teen percent film that I personally like. I don't remember which one it is. I mean, we'll look at the list and see.
So hopefully we're not going to just suffer the whole time. But
no, we suffered through a few. So with that said, this is the last Hello Can We Go we're going to do for 2017.
Yes.
We wanted to do a retrospect type thing, just reflect on how like the series we've done, how it's going so far.
Yes.
Like what have we noticed? Is there any trends we've seen? Just our personal takeaways.
Yes.
It's
been a really, really fun series so far. I would never have believed that some of the movies that we ended up watching were even that low rated. Mm-hmm. Like Monster Squad, that took me by surprise.
That's criminal.
Exorcist 3, Bad Moon. I mean, there's The Faculty. The fact that these movies were all rated not fresh is absolutely kind of insane.
The Craft.
That's
another one.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of Pet Sematary. There's a lot of great movies that we got to watch and cover. And that's the thing, is one of the things I thought, one of my immediate takeaways from it was just that I was glad we did it, because there were a few movies that I probably wouldn't have watched. I had never seen Jennifer's Body, for example.
Yeah.
And I ended up really, really liking it. I think it's a super underrated movie. So the series definitely forced me to have a more open mind when it comes to horror movies that I didn't get around to.
Yeah, I feel the same way. There's a lot of films where like I'll see the trailer for it and I'm like, that's shit. And then I'm like, well, how the fuck do I know? I've never seen that. I've never seen it. I can't.
Right.
Obviously, I can't judge it. Which is what I used to do a lot, and I still have friends who do that. They see trailers and they're like, I'm never going to see this. Like, fuck you. You haven't seen the film. There's a few films like Texas Chainsaw 2.
Right.
That was probably the one I didn't like the most.
Yes.
So far, but one of the takeaways I've noticed from How Low Can We Go is one of them is that critics are all over the fucking board.
Yes.
With some horror films that they like and some films that they don't like, which brings me to, I had 5 points, but there's only 2 like real points. And I think this affects the critics is a lot of times, and I've said this on the show and on the live stream, is the level of enjoyment you get from a film is the mindset you are going into it.
Right.
So like if you go into a film thinking this is going to be complete shit, it's going to be complete shit.
Sure.
And it's super easy to like judge a film and say like, oh, this is shit, this is bad. It's a lot fucking harder to acknowledge the good shit. Because in every bad, I think Kevin Smith said it's hard to make a bad film because there's a lot of time you got to put in it. But there's always some good shit, even in a bad film.
Not always, but
Oh, there's always
a
something.
lot of the time.
There's always something. There's always a shot or like a performance from one person or a score.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Like there's always.
I'm trying to think of something good in Transformers right now, and it's taking me out of this.
Transformers felt like an event when it came up. It was like a big.
Oh my god, you're
blockbuster
finding
coming
something
up.
that's not even in the movie.
I will defend Transformers. I saw the first one 3 times. It at least brought back for me at that time like the feeling of a blockbuster.
Okay, that makes sense.
The idea it had the feeling of what a blockbuster should be. That's my defense for it.
That makes sense.
And I just feel like a lot of these horror films, I think giving them a shot is worth it, because there's always, like I said, there's always something. Go into it hoping to find something good.
Well, here's something. One of my takeaways from this that I think it's interesting, and I'd like to figure out more why it happens. But critics, it's supposed to be a craft, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're supposed to. They're supposed to, it's not just, you don't just walk in, watch a movie, and then write an article about it. That's not how film criticism works, right? You need to know things about how movies are made, how screenplays are constructed, how the shots are done. And you're supposed to know if someone's doing it in an amateurish way or the acting's bad. It's like being I can't even say that word, with the wine tasters, like a sommelier or whatever.
Oh yeah.
You're supposed to train your palate and get a better sense than the average person who's, just gulping wine, right? Like this is the whole fucking point of being a film critic. But they were so wrong about so many of these movies at the time, and then they came back and revised their opinion after.
Yeah.
They all bashed Monster Squad when it came out, and now they all think it's great. But it's the same. It's the same crap. It's like drinking fucking Trader Joe's $2 wine and saying it's terrible, and then saying it's great 20 years later. But the wine didn't change. You just changed your fucking opinion. So the fact that they're wrong so frequently, the takeaway to me is, one, I think that they, except for the best ones, they suffer heavily from groupthink.
Yes.
Right. So they just are sort of following the herd. And they affect each other's reviews by how, and the era and how that goes. And then the second is that they discriminate against horror, which is not news. We're not breaking news there, but they definitely don't give it the same. Look what they're doing to Get Out right now. They're making it compete in the Golden Globes as a comedy. Like, what
That's so
the
stupid.
fuck is that, right? That's not even, they don't even know how to process some of these movies that were being made. So I think they've, what's fascinating to me is that there's so many of these movies that got crapped on when they came out, and it makes me sad that some of them didn't get that revised. If I could wave a wand, I would do whatever happened to Monster Squad. I'd give it to Firestarter.
Yeah.
Because I feel like that movie deserves another look. And a lot of the other ones. Bad Moon is a tremendous movie. It's really good. It's really enjoyable. And
Thor needs to be on that collage right next to Cujo.
He's the best dog actor of all time. So, So I mean, I think that's one of the things that really kind of blew my mind about how these movies were treated and how wrong the people were. And they also, critics don't seem to have much of a ear for things that are iconic at the time. And I feel like that, I mean, that's should be part of their job, but they're really not good at it. But, it's clear to me that The Craft it was iconic. It's an iconic movie, right? But they gave it super low ratings and said it was, whatever, comical, whatever. It's like The Lost Boys. Sometimes movies aren't perfect, but they capture something that's special, and critics tend to miss that part for the most part. Right?
Yeah. Well, it reminds me of how we ended the Kenneth Turan episode with Wes Craven talking about how fucking that I get teary eyed when I think about the Wes Craven part where he's like, the horror fans, they get it. They're the people who are picked on, or they're the minorities, but they're the first one to get it because they understand what's going on the screen. Yep. And it's not till years later when they're like, oh yeah, that film, genius. Oh, love it. Which, like, I'm not hating on it because it is, and like, if you're late to the party, who gives a shit? I'm not the thing I hate just as much as critics who bash it just because it's horror are the gatekeepers
Sure.
for it. Let as many fucking people see this film as you want. The more people who experience it, the better. Because the
Absolutely.
bigger the community grows, and the better.
Absolutely.
I'm glad we're doing it, because even as a horror fan, there's some films that I was like, nope, I'm never gonna watch this.
Sure.
Forced me to watch it. Now I fucking love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I guess that's the biggest thing, is just and it's hard. It's like food. Like, it's an art. Like,
Right.
you have to, you're not gonna know if you like onions until you fucking put them on a burger.
Right, exactly.
And I think that's the biggest thing.
And I think the other takeaway for me was that we can just put to bed this idea that remakes and sequels automatically suck or automatically
Yes.
bad, right? And that's one of the things. I think the best movie from 59% to where we're at now, the best single movie that we reviewed to me is Exorcist 3, which is a sequel and an amazing movie with just great performances and genuinely scary, just really, really well made and well built. And that's, when you've got things like Hills Have Eyes remake, which we reviewed. I mean, I'm the biggest fan. I love original horror. We've talked about this a lot,
Yeah.
right? But just this automatic discrimination against sequels and remakes is so silly to me, right?
Yeah.
There's, Exorcist 3 was directed by William Peter Blatty. I mean, this is the guy who created the goddamn Exorcist, right?
Yeah.
And he thought he had something fresh and original to say about the story. And he didn't even want to call it Exorcist 3, right? Like he wanted to call it Legion.
Yep.
So he was thinking about it, and it just because a studio packages it and markets it as a sequel doesn't mean that the people working on it weren't talented, weren't trying 100%, weren't true, horror people, whatever. There's just a subgroup of horror fans who were like, oh, the sequel is never as good as the original. It's just automatic. You don't even know what you're dealing with. Like that movie
is a Carrie remake,
right?
as well.
Right. That movie is not a real. It's not a real sequel, so to speak. But there's also the mood you're in for certain things. Like Friday the 13th 6, which we reviewed on this. I forget
Yes.
what percentage it was. To me it's the most fun, but still good Friday.
Yeah.
I mean. There's other Fridays that are fun, but they're fun for a lot of wrong reasons. But it's really, really fun, but really, really well made. And if you can't, you got to be in the mood for that. But who wants to live in a world where you don't have that when you want it, or you're in the mood for it? Right? So, I just think the whole sequel remake thing is a really tired.
And there's so much shit behind the scenes. Like, one of the people who I'll die fighting for is Good Bad Flicks,
Right.
who constantly talks about the shit that goes on behind the scenes
Yep.
with these films that make them bad.
Yep.
But there's always some good shit in there. So
Sure.
I always think you got to give these films the benefit of the doubt. And I was thinking that that's the Kevin Smith quote. It's hard to make a bad film.
Right. And if they're bad, call it. That's fine. Like Exorcist 2 is genuinely a bad movie.
Yes.
Right? That's totally fine. But yeah, and like to your point about the finding things, I can see the argument that 30 Days a Night isn't a great movie. I don't agree. I think it's a really good movie, but I can see people not liking some things of it or thinking it's boring or whatever. But holy shit, Marlowe, the vampire in there, is one of the best vampires in cinema.
Yep.
So even if you don't like the movie, like you said, you can find things in it. If you're being fair and you're going at it the right way, you'll find things in it that are really enjoyable. I don't want to lose that performance.
And exactly. For someone for the horror fan like me, the film is like half the magic. The next part is me, daydreaming, thinking about, King Kong versus 1,000 vampires or some shit like that.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I get a lot of that from like the films that we've been watching on the journey of how low can we go.
Yep.
So yeah, there it is. I guess.
But I'm glad the series is continuing, and now that we're heading into the 20s, it'll be interesting to see
if we still whistle in the same tune at the end. We might get to 0. We're like, you know what? Fuck it.
Well, I mean, to be fair, if you run a marathon, the first time you run a marathon, you're probably not going to make it 26 miles. But if it's the first time you've ever run a marathon, you make it 25.
Yeah.
I feel like that's really respectable. If we make it to 1%, and we're still happy with most of the movies we've watched and uncover some gems, then that's pretty respectable. I don't expect us to find great at zero. It's probably not gonna happen. Who knows? I mean,
I don't either.
right.
But I think so far,
I think the movie we're watching at zero is The Disappointments Room, which ironically has Kate Beckinsale in it.
no fucking way.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. That's a nice little wraparound.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a nice little wraparound.
But I wanted to end the series on a movie titled The Disappointments Room
because that's fucking hilarious.
because that's where we're headed. So.
I like that. Well, that is the How Low Can We Go, the last one we're gonna do for 2017.
Yep.
And if you want something that's not going to be as disappointing as The Disappointments Room, head on over to our Patreon page at patreon.com/HoloWeekly so you can join the interactive game Last Fan Standing, where we have an amazing story. We're just, I think, by the time this episode's released, we'll be starting the next story. Mm-hmm. So Camp Hollow Weekly will have been wrapped up. But it's
the first of many really cool short horror tales to come.
Yes, that's roll your own adventure, choose your own adventure, to see if you live or die. And if you don't live, you get to your memory will live on for that story and the Facebook page.
I love that you're doing in memoriam videos for the dead people.
I know, with the
that's the best.
We're recording this a week early, and we're gonna release after we record this, and hopefully see some people kick the bucket. So, you'll know by then if you'd lived or died. But yeah, head on over to patreon.com/HoloWeekly for Last Fan Standing and to support this awesome community. And until next time, stay scary, watch a bunch of horror films, and rock and roll.
That's right.
All right, bye.